sales, where we get real with some really interesting people. We're all making a living in some rather different ways, which brings up to the question, how do they do it? How do they make a business out of it? How do they sell themselves? Today we have Ashley V with one of her many, many examples. You got the most unusual, eclectic group of friends here, Ashley. And the question is always, not just what they do, but how do they do it? How do they sustain it? So Ashley, bring us in. Who'd you bring today?
All right, everybody. So, thanks for tuning in. We have a really awesome show. We have Dan Stein here. He's a music guru. He's done all kinds of sales in music. He has some really good advice, good experiences. And selling music is more complex now versus years ago. And so we're going to talk about everything about music, all about sales. So, Dan, why don't you kick us off telling us where you're from and how you got started working in music?
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to be here and have this discussion. I started my music career very early. I was 8 years old when I started playing the piano and the saxophone. I grew up in New Jersey, in a suburban town about an hour south of New York City called Marlboro, New Jersey.
Is that where the Marlboro Man's from? No,
yeah. No. It's unclear. It's unclear. Just thinking about all the people that smoked Marlboros when I was growing up.
I'm dating myself here. The Marlboro Man used to have a giant billboard up on Sunset for a million years of the Marlboro Man smoking his cigarettes. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I started playing piano and saxophone when I was 8, and I got my first guitar when I was 12, and I had piano lessons, saxophone lessons, guitar lessons. I ended up being in the pit orchestra, and actually my senior year of high school played on Carnegie Hall in New York City. And,
That's amazing.
Music's just kind of been in my blood. And when I was a teenager, my dad got me an acoustic guitar. I went away to sleepaway camp and just started learning songs and doing the singer-songwriter thing.
So you're all self-taught? You just taught yourself how to play music?
Well, I mean, I was in a music program all throughout my elementary, middle, and high school days, and I had instructors and private lessons, and I was not self-taught. But when I started playing the acoustic guitar and singing songs and writing songs, that was definitely all self-created. I would pick a song I liked and learn how to play it, and then I would go play it at an open mic or a talent show or something like that and just start putting it out there.
So what did your parents say? That's the question I always ask musicians. I was an early musician. I was a singer, and my parents said, that's really cute. Now what are you going to do for a living?
Actually, my parents would tell me to go on American Idol. And
See, there you go.
And my response was, I am not a conformist. I am not a pop star. That is not my identity. I'm a hippie, and I like rock and roll. And people still tell me to this day that I should go on America's Got Talent and go for that, because
she had a magician on who was on America's Got Talent, so there
Right,
you could
yeah,
teach you how to do
ago.
it. So I guess my point is that music is one of those things many kids seem to have an interest in and talent for, and then get talked out of.
Right. And that's because the industry is relentless, dog eat dog, every man for themselves industry.
Yeah.
And it's growing, it's changing, and it's getting more difficult. We're here today to talk about what you can do as an artist, no matter what level you're at. If you're 16 years old and you're just and your eyes are just starting to gleam with hope and promise, or if you're 50 years old and you've been at it for 25 years and you really are banging your head against the wall, not really sure what to do, and everything in between, there is a way. And my idea is that it starts with looking at music and your band and your project as a small business, and creating a business plan and a marketing strategy and a brand for what you're doing that has some weight to it. So we were saying earlier, if you're like 3 young guys that want to play music, y'all have long hair and you're skinny and good looking, and you're 3 guys without your shirts on playing music, that's a brand. You should roll with that and get lots of pictures of yourselves doing that, vids. But if you're like, older and, maybe have a beer belly going and you're balding a little bit, you probably shouldn't focus on pictures of yourself in that environment. as your brand strategy, you should maybe consider using digital art or focusing on the name of your band and the kind of vibe that you're going for, and less about the picture of what you're doing.
So let's talk about how it's changed. Because I came to California in 1980 to be a rock and roll star, to be a something. And I had a band in high school, and I sang, and I had some friends. You know, we did that gig. We were three guys that had a guitar and a dream, and we're going to do something. And I came to LA, and everybody, there's a billion
Right.
a month. All the best of the world came here. And I quickly realized this is back in the 80s, there was only one way to succeed, really, and that was to get a record
To get a
deal.
record deal.
And so it was all about you do anything to get a record deal, and that's
Right.
how you were going to make money. That's how you're going to sustain yourself. That's how you're going to be a millionaire. That's how you're going to get a million people to listen.
Yes.
No other way to do it. So it's a couple of record companies, billion people playing in clubs, trying to get somebody to come out and do it. And even if you got a gig, I can tell sad stories of people who did get a contract who went nowhere. The
Exactly.
record didn't support it. The record executive changed. They just didn't put it out and promote it the right way, and the thing died.
Right.
So it was a very narrow path to meet, but the whole idea was get a record and do anything. You played endlessly to get a record, and the record is how you made money and how you made success. Now it seems like the opposite.
It's something
You
else.
give the music away for free.
Right.
You give it away on Spotify and everything. You're not making any money off the record. There is no record sales. There is no CD sale. So instead, you're
that's
selling
not,
other stuff.
That's not totally true.
Okay.
I just believe that with the amount of music that's out there, the amount of content we're creating and putting on, if it's something like 4 million songs
a minute.
are uploaded to Spotify. I don't
Right.
know I forget what the exact number is, but the reality is, once you reach a threshold of success, popularity, and sales, then record sales matter.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Target, there's records there. There's CDs and there's records, and it's Taylor Swift, and it's Ed Sheeran,
Right.
and it's the Rolling Stones, and Beyonce, and Whitney Houston, and I mean Madonna, and I can go on with.
But it still seems like even for those people, Taylor Swift's talked about this. She's always ranting about Spotify. You get a half a cent for a song or something.
Sure.
And whereas radio used to pay, radio itself probably
It
still
still
pays.
does, and this is the thing. Most people don't realize radio's not dead. There's 5,000 radio stations across the country.
Right.
You still get paid if your music is playing on them.
Right.
But
It's
you
mostly like online now
well,
versus
no.
like in your car driving. so
people
much.
people go in their car, they turn on FM radio. They seek until they find a station that works.
And those stations have to pay
Yeah.
royalties on that music.
And they
that
do.
you sing, right?
And so we got a song. We got one of our songs. My band Shambhala. We got one of our songs on independent radio in Laguna Beach down here in Orange County.
Sure. No more.
Human crafted KXFM, and that whole process is official. And now I found out I had to register with another organization whose sole purpose is to find out when your songs are being played and to make sure that you get your royalty checks
ASCAP
for
or
them.
BMI, one of the two.
Well, see, those are called publishers. Those are
Okay.
your publishing companies, and you have to register with them as a writer and as a publisher separately in order to self-publish your music. You have to be a writer and a publisher.
Right.
So those are two separate tax
And
entities.
then somebody else collects the royalties? I thought they collected the royalties.
And then, they collect the royalties, but they don't always just pay them out. So what's actually happening is there's a third-party organization that is finding out when those songs are getting played. Every song has an ISRC code. And when that code is registered through a radio station as being played, well, someone's got ASCAP is not going to the radio station and say, okay, my client here, when, how many times did their song get played? They don't care, and they'd rather not pay out. They're busy collecting from other stuff. So now there's third party. Most people don't realize this.
didn't know that.
They're not collecting checks, even though they're working their butts off to get their music on this Spotify thing and this radio station, this and that, and then they're not getting any money for it. Well, you have to actually go out there and say, okay, well, this was how many. And I also learned this very cool, interesting fact. When you go play any kind of Ticketmaster, Live Nation show, if you play a song that is registered with a publishing company like ASCAP or BMI, you can collect royalties for every listener that's in the audience. So let's say you're Taylor Swift and you're playing for 73,000 people in Pittsburgh, and every one of those songs, I wonder, this is why she plays 45 songs in a show. Every one of those songs is registered with ASCAP or whatever, and she collects royalties on the 73,000 people that are listening to her 45 songs.
Wow.
Do the math. If that's a penny per song,
That's a lot.
that's still a good amount of money
Yeah.
just to be collecting royalties. So the music industry there's still a lot of opportunity to make money, but you have to work very hard at it. You have to release songs constantly. You have to hype them up. You have to build your social media audience. You have to strategize. You have to have good looking graphics, good art, good photography. Everything has to sound good.
So let me make 3 points quickly. One is the business has certainly changed. It used to be get a record deal, and that was the only way to get heard, and that was the only way to make money. Now there's other ways to get heard and other ways to make money. But it seems like the second point is some of these artists, even Beyonce or whatever, she's going to make $1 billion off of her new tour. It seems like touring, you used to tour just to sell the record. You didn't care if you made much money touring. It was to drive the record sales.
Right.
Now it's almost like the record sales drive the attendance to the tour.
I don't know.
Tour.
I don't know if I agree with that. I still think that everything is kind of happening the same way. There's just so many people doing it, and they're because of social media, we're following 1,000 artists that are all doing it.
So how do you like stand out? versus
And that's the
everyone?
key, is that you have to stand
That
out.
was my third point. How do you get? There was a handful of people that the record company selected,
Right.
and they
did it all for you.
They curated this.
They
and
still
presented
do
it
that.
to her. Yeah.
That dream is not dead. I am convinced that dream is not dead. I've talked to A&R execs from record labels.
Artists and repertoire, the guys that come up with the songs and the selections.
Correct, and I've talked to talent management companies that represent well-known artists, and it's a lot more difficult, and there's a lot less money for recording. They're not financing $1 million record deals
Right.
as much as they were previously. However, they are still doing marketing and distribution at levels that independent artists cannot do.
Right.
That dream is not dead. But to answer the question, how do you break out of the mold? How do you get ahead and stand out from the crowd? And that is not an easy question to answer. It has to do with your brand identity and your brand and marketing strategy. And if it's social media, if it's TikTok, whatever your thing is that you think is going to go viral or set you apart. For me and my band Shambhala, my girlfriend and I, we front the band. We're very beautiful together, and we have a loving relationship. She's the lead guitar
awesome.
player. I'm the singer, songwriter, and we have a 5-piece band that we front. And that's our brand. It's Shambhala is about positivity and good energy, and her and I have a lot of good energy on stage and in the music that we write, and we have male-female singing harmonies. And so that dynamic for us, that's the brand that we're going with, and we're gonna work it until we can't work it anymore, and it's gonna be her and I in this loving relationship. It works until it doesn't work. Fleetwood Mac, for example. But
Right. Sonny and Cher.
yeah, exactly. And John and Yoko. No, I'm just kidding.
But it seems like today, so that's the downside. It's harder to break out. It's hard. It's not as clear cut how you get found and how you get discovered and how you get paid out of all these things. Much more complex. But on the other side of it, it seems like there's more opportunities to earn a living and
Correct.
to do this, because if you didn't get a record deal in those days, you were done. That was it. I don't
yeah.
care how good you were.
Yeah,
If the
you
record
get another
did-
job.
you got another job. And I can give you examples of friends of mine from the 80s. Some who worked hard, got a record deal. It didn't work for whatever reason, and they dropped out.
Correct.
Right.
Well, and especially in those days, it was easy to spend all the money you got from your record deal and turn around and be like,
Now what? Yeah.
And then your record doesn't sell anything, and the record company says, well, we gave you $500,000, and you're not selling any records for us, so can you pay us back?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, right, exactly.
So the fact that we're not frivolously entering into those types of engagements is probably good, but it does distribute the wealth more, so that the rich are getting richer, and the middle class and the poor are getting poorer. And the same is this for the music industry. There are a lot more people in the industry that are living and playing music 5-7 nights a week and making $20,000-$30,000 a year and living like that because that's their passion and that's their art. And there's a lot less people that are actually making millions of dollars off of their music.
I think they're like also like I've seen on TikTok, all these online apps and things. If you get like if you're like a huge hit, you have a lot of followers and views and likes. That helps you stand out. You can kind of get hit, like
Sure.
found and stuff.
But even
Noticed.
even in that, you're not. I don't think a lot of those people are selling records. Even if they have hit pop songs because they're like they went viral on TikTok and they now have 1 million followers and they put a song on Spotify and it's got a lot of listens. I still don't think those people are making their money off of any of that music.
So maybe
Isn't
that drives their
iTunes
personal appearance, though, or something,
It's-
to get more gigs. And
No, it's really a lot of those social media and TikTok influencers and stuff are making money through merchandising and selling merchandise and marketing and advertising other products that they're like brand
to their following.
Yeah, that they're brand
They're
representatives.
influencers. So I got all these people watching me
They're
for some reason.
influencers. They're
Now I-
selling beauty products. They're selling like clothing products. Like no, and it's they are brand representatives. And when they get to that point where they have 1 million followers on TikTok and Instagram, they're able to leverage that and say, go out, buy this shirt from this company, use my discount code, and they make 20% of those sales. And that right there is so much more valuable than counting your streams or whatever. And
counting your followers. So
Yeah.
how did you learn this? You're making a living doing this. You're surviving and thriving and still
I am not.
whack-
I am not. I make a living off of doing graphic design as a freelance agent, and I work with a music venue. I just stay involved. I do freelance work with other artists. I do their poster design. These are some posters
phenomenal posters.
that I've designed myself for my
How
band.
do you draw these? Are
Um,
they hand drawn and then you print them? Or?
This was hand drawn, and then I did a lot of graphic design work to enhance it. So
So when you're in school, I don't know if you took graphic design school, but you took music lessons forever. And they say, you got a dream, you got talent, kid. Did they ever say, but here's what it's going to take to get
no,
there?
nobody knows what it's going to take because it's and I was just listening to Rick Rubin and John Mayer. They did an interview on Rick Rubin's
Rick
podcast.
Rubin, probably the
The
guy
man.
from hip hop to Johnny Cash to everything
Correct,
else he's
correct.
produced. Yeah.
And Rick asked John Mayer what how did you get so good so fast and how did it all happen for you? And John's response was, really, it comes down to luck. There's a lot of people out there that are talented.
that's true.
There's a lot of good players and a lot of talent. John Mayer was lucky that he grew up in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know that. That's right.
and
You had exposure to it more.
exactly. You have, and this goes back to what we were saying earlier. Be there. Be in the scene. If you want to be a musician and you want to be a successful singer, songwriter, pop star, go out to shows in your neighborhood and be a part of the scene. Meet people. Play at open mics. Play at songwriter nights and showcases. Do talent shows. Do Battle of the Bands. Do all of it.
Network. Because you never know
Everything.
when somebody's going to call you and say, hey, can you fill in for this gig?
Correct.
Can you help me with this? Can you do something?
That
Right.
brings me to a very interesting point, which we haven't talked about. How I came to LA. The first week I moved here, I moved from Arizona. I put all my stuff in storage, got my music equipment, came to LA in my minivan, straight to Venice Beach, and knew nobody, had no connections whatsoever. I went to a show in Laguna Niguel at Mugs Away Saloon, and I met some people.
That's where they moon everybody. I think when the train goes by, if
my
I'm not,
God.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
mistaken.
And
know.
I met some people on the patio, and they said, "Who are you?" My name's Dan. I'm a singer songwriter. I play Grateful Dead music and whatever. Really, you have your equipment with you? Yeah. You sing? Yeah. Are you available this weekend for a gig? We had a guy, he got COVID,
That's
and they needed a guy. So I said, absolutely, whatever, not a problem. So 2 days later, I'm in Trabuco Canyon playing a house party with a bunch of musicians that are now some of my closest friends. This was 2 years ago.
Wow, that's
This was
Orange County.
this
Nice.
weekend 2 years ago was when I did this. And since then, I've played over 200 shows. Whether it's been sitting in with other cover bands, whether it's been my own music or my own Grateful Dead tribute projects. I do a lot of shows at the Venice West in Venice Beach, where right by where I live, and playing Grateful brunch there,
The
and
Grateful Brunch is
Grateful
over there.
Brunch. Yeah, and this is the thing though. This is my advice: be there, be everywhere, show up, say hey, talk to the band, talk to the sound people, tell them what you want to do, because the only way people are going to know that that's what you want to do and have an opportunity for you is if you tell them. If you sit
And
at
if they
home
see you
and
or
write in
hear
your
you.
diary,
Yeah.
if you only write in your journal, man, I really wish I was a famous singer-songwriter, then that's it.
Yeah, I think
Or-
it's a lot of hard work, a lot of luck, and you have to write good songs. You really have to write good songs.
And is it okay to do cover music? Because I know lots of musicians say, "Oh no, I'd die before I'd go and play cover band. I'm going to starve and sit in my room and write my stuff until somebody discovers it or I die."
Sure. I honestly,
gosh.
I just feel like you should do everything. And speaking of some of my idols, I was watching an interview with Jason Mraz, and he doesn't know a lot of music theory. And so the person interviewing him was like, "Well, you're so amazingly talented." And his response was, "Well, I'm really good at doing what I do, the music I write." He's like, "But I am not very good at playing other people's music because I don't understand it." So with that in mind, I've spent the last 4 or 5 years digging into the Grateful Dead's catalog and repertoire and learning about their songwriting techniques, learning about their style of playing, and I've stolen some of that stuff for my own style of music. And I wouldn't have that if I didn't go out and play their music.
And you said that I'm not that familiar with the history of the Grateful Dead, but when they started, like many bands, they didn't have much music.
Nope.
They hadn't written anything. So how did they get out and play? They played other popular songs of the time.
They did, and actually that rang through their whole 30-year career. We call them in the Dead scene. We call them the greatest cover band of all time, because they had over 500 songs in their repertoire, and maybe half of them were cover songs. And one of their most popular songs, they played it so many times. Big River. Big River is a song that was written by Johnny Cash. Taught that weeping willow how to cry,
that's
cry.
right.
And they started playing that song in the late 60s, early 70s. And they've played it for, that song has been played by every Grateful Dead cover band from here to Japan. And that's a cover song, but you don't realize that because they made it their own. They put their passion into it. And that's my recommendation to people is just keep playing music, put your heart and soul into what you're doing, and don't give up. And and follow your dreams, because that's really all
I
we
lived
have.
through the transition from the 60s to the 70s. The 60s was all about, there were songwriters, millions of teams that wrote songs like Tin Pan Alley from
Right.
way back when.
Right.
And then the A&R people would match, and they'd bring a song into Sonny and Cher, and they'd say,
Right.
"How about this?" And they'd say, "Okay, cool, let's do it." They were all covering somebody else. So they didn't write
Exactly.
and perform. Then, of course, the 70s came along. James Taylor, Elton John, a million others. You got to be the singer and the songwriter.
Well, and then that, there's been a huge stray away from that too now. And there's I know a lot of people that get ahead by joining songwriting guilds and working with Grammy-winning songwriters, and everything is a foot in some door. Everything is networking and a foot in some door.
Yeah.
So do that. Write with a Grammy-winning songwriter. Learn from them. I'm working with a producer that's well known in the industry, not yet for producing, but for playing the drums, and we're learning so much from him because he's been a recording artist for 15 years, and he's been on many records and in studios, and he knows some of the ins and outs. Now we're the next generation. We're taking that information and we're applying it to our thing, and it's just
So it sounds like you got to have a hustle.
Gotta have a
just
hustle.
desire. You love music, but you got to have a hustle, and you got to be willing to get out and go anywhere, everywhere,
Yep.
at the drop of a hat.
Unless you're born into a family that is in the industry.
Yeah,
If you're born into the industry, then you have a foot in the door from birth.
I don't
but-
know if that happens a lot.
But more often than not,
Really?
most of the pop stars that we know were born into the industry, some way, shape, or form. Their parents did something, or someone they knew, or they had childhood actors, actresses, whatever.
Right.
But if you don't have that, then you need to hustle like any small business. You need to invest in yourself. 10, 20, 30, $40,000 startup costs. You need to open your business doors and have no customers for a little bit.
What if someone doesn't have a lot of money though? Like, what if they're just like broke? How do they become a singer?
I mean,
they don't.
I mean, but that's the thing. Yeah, those you don't.
How do you open any business? You're broke and you just have a desire. No, you gotta
Well,
hustle.
if you're young and you're a bunch of kids and you have some basic gear and you want to go hang out with your friends and play music, you never know what's going to happen. You don't necessarily need money for that to happen. But most of the people that are successful were backed by some financial support, whether it was their family or they did some fundraising campaigns or what. They found some people that believed in them and threw some money down, because otherwise you're only going to be playing in your neighborhood. It costs money to grow your business.
Justin Bieber, his mom was recording him singing and put it on YouTube.
Right.
And he got found on YouTube.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't know.
Post Malone was the same way, and you know.
I remember hearing. I don't know this, but the story I always heard was Gwen Stefani and No Doubt. They're an Orange County band. They were from Orange County.
Yeah, they're awesome.
And I remember seeing them at like UC Riverside or something, some Battle of the Bands for some reason. I went out there, and they were the headline. And I remember thinking, they're good, but, I've seen a million bands like this. And when they went on to fame later, but they played relentlessly everywhere. And along the way, her brother quit the band and decided to be more of a graphic artist. He was good at that and got some real jobs doing that and said, this is going nowhere. And I quit.
Wow.
And
oh my gosh.
Oops.
Yeah,
oops.
Yeah, and a couple years after that, they hit it big. But I saw them and I thought, good, but I didn't immediately go, this is great. This is destined for...
I think about them, it's like they're different because she's the only girl and she's singing with all these guys, and she was like a
I can't tell you what it was. I saw it early on and I definitely saw it was good, but I didn't have the eye or the ear to say, oh, that's special. That's going to go somewhere.
I think this gets back to the point about luck.
That's interesting.
And why a lot of us are in LA, because we have this idea that, well, if we do that, if we play gigs all over, eventually the right person's going to be in the right place at the right time and hear us, and boom, record deal.
Right.
And I think that still exists. I think that is a dream that is still alive and well, and that you don't know. But maybe today it's not, hey, we're from Elektra Records and we've got $1 million record deal for you. Maybe it's, we are a talent management company and we can place you on some really great tours that are going to get you good exposure.
Or we can get your music in a movie. I hear people talking
about
that.
licensing music and sync with music supervisors and stuff like that.
In a video game or something.
It's all of everything.
Commercials.
My business strategy is to do it all. I want to license the music, produce instrumental music for TV and stuff like that, tour relentlessly, and put out hit songs, and and do it all, and and it starts.
Let me just get your autograph now.
Yeah, please. We're gonna get him to sign up.
I just and I'm relentless on social media, and I've got a good following, and I engage with my following, and I just posted on my way down here. I said I am not gonna let small town politics of the local music scene prevent me from living my dreams out. Jimmy Fallon, here I come.
Okay.
Wow.
All right, give a shout out to your girl. Let's mention your girlfriend, because you mentioned her a couple of times.
Yes.
She's going to hit you in the head if you don't say her name.
Yeah. Liv Zutphen, my girlfriend, my best friend. She's the lead guitar player in the band. She's beautiful, and she studied music at the Musicians Institute in Hollywood.
Big time. There you go.
And I'm the singer-songwriter. Together, we front the band Shambhala.
And what does Shambhala mean?
And Shambhala is a spiritual path of being a peaceful warrior. It's facing life head on, as if it's a battle, but doing it from a place of peace and compassion, and building a better world through that. So
we need that right now.
The term, and that comes through in the music and what we do. And so we've got 2 songs on Spotify, Breathless and California Sunshine, and we're going into the studio on Saturday with our producer, Matt Starr. Matt Starr plays drums with Ace Frehley, the guitar player from Kiss in Ace's band, and he played with Mr. Big and Kix. And Matt is our producer, and we're recording at Strawhorse Studios, and our next single is called Shake It, and that's going to be releasing in September.
So play us a little snippet of something, not the whole thing. We got a few seconds here. Take us out playing.
All right.
What are you going to play for us?
All right. This is our upcoming single, Shake It. I've been looking for a station, baby, all night long. Searching all night, but I just don't know. Looking for something I can throw in my ears. Thinking of a tune that I just can't hear. Now my baby can't find me. Think it's time to pack up and go. We're gonna shake it, shake it, shake it all night long. You know we're gonna shake it, shake it, shake it all night long. Till the morning comes, even if we're all alone. Rising up to paradise, know we're gonna shake it all night long. All right, if you want to hear the rest of that, you're going to have to wait about a month or two. Or you can come see us play. We're playing this Friday night at the Speak Easy Tavern in Redondo Beach.
There you go.
And we got many
go
shows
there,
coming up.
everyone.
Follow us on social media, Shambhala the Band on Instagram and Facebook. And I'm Dan Stein. You can find me Dan Stein Music on Instagram and Facebook. And
what are the 2 songs on Spotify?
Breathless and California Sunshine.
California Sunshine. All right. Well, you brought us a little California Sunshine today here. A very positive attitude about a very difficult path to take. And some insights into how even musicians have to be salesmen today here. Thank you. Ashley, take us out.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. So we had a really awesome show, Music Sells. Next time in August, coming up soon in a couple weeks, we're going to have an amazing author and professor / dancer. And we have some really good shows coming up. So make sure you
He's
go
an
to our
author,
social media.
professor, and / dancer?
Yes.
You say
Very
that so
talented
casually.
guest coming up. Yeah, so she's got a lot of cool stuff happening. So, yeah, stay tuned, everybody. Make sure you listen to our shows and check it out on iHeartRadio app and then also on Spotify app. And check out our social media, Real World of Sales Show.
All right. Well, if that doesn't get you interested, you can come back and hear more. I don't know what it is, because we're all salespeople at heart. We've all got to sell what we do, whether we like it or not. It's never gotten harder. It never gotten easier. It's gotten harder. It's never gotten easier. And today was a perfect example of that. So thanks for tuning in. Join us again for the Real World of Sales, right here in Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio. Streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.
So welcome back, everybody. It's time to meet our community. The Hispanic business community here in Orange County. Powered by the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio. Streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center. With a special episode today with some special friends and our special host, Ruben Franco. Hey, Ruben. Who'd you bring?
Paul, how are you?
Good. You brought along one of your old friends here.
Yeah, full disclosure, I have a former fraternity brother of mine, Kevin Abbott, who's here. Kevin and I go way back, more than 3 decades back, I hate to say, but we do. Went to UCLA together, and we're in the same fraternity together, and known each other for years. Know his wife, Julie.
Yeah, you dated my wife, yeah.
I dated your wife, Julie.
And I'm still here. That's how good a guy you are.
That's how good a guy you are. Yeah, good a guy you are here after that happened. So. But thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
You know, this is our podcast that we bring out to our community, and you know, Kevin is a very famous showrunner, one of the top showrunners in all of TV, and we're
all right. I'll take it.
Well, we're very fortunate to have him, and we have a lot of students we work with throughout all the universities here, and so they'll be glad to hear from you what you have to say about the industry and the business, and maybe some little advice too as well. So we look forward to the conversation. But what we'd like to start the podcast off with usually is just tell us a little bit about yourself and your family, and let everybody know who you are.
Yeah, my name's Kevin Abbott, and I've been doing TV writing for 34 years now, 34 years. I started right out of college, basically 6 months out of college. Met my wife Julie at UCLA. We're both Bruins. We've been married for 35 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. 3 kids. Two of them are in the business. My girls. Katie's a manager at a talent agency / production company called Circle of Confusion that's famous for Walking Dead. And my daughter Jessie is a development exec over at Capital Entertainment, which is a production company that does tons of TV shows. Their big one just now was Oprah Winfrey's Women of the Movement. No grandkids yet. I'd like to have grandkids. I'm pushing, but I've turned into that guy.
Who just got married? Was it
Jessie? Jessie just got married. Yeah, she got married just before COVID hit, October of 2019.
Okay.
So just before it hit, we got in under the wire. And I've been running TV shows now probably, I guess 95. I've been running various TV shows. It's been a wild ride. It's not something.
We got to get him to list a couple of them here. We got to get him to rattle off some of the shows.
Tell us a little, recently you worked, obviously you were the showrunner for Last Man Standing with Tim Allen.
Yep, that
Nancy
was
Travis and Hector Elizondo.
Yeah,
and just,
fantastic.
One of my favorite shows of all time, because I'll have to ask you this question just because politically Tim was a conservative,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And I think he is personally, but
he is personally, yeah.
But I mean, on the show, and he was. He didn't pull any punches on it.
Yeah.
And
I got to tell you, one of the interesting things for me about doing that show was that angle on it, because I'm left of center. When Julie and I graduated, actually, one of us was a Republican, one of us was a Democrat. We couldn't remember which one was which because it used to be much closer. It used to be much closer, the parties.
Yeah.
And now they've, as everybody knows, they've gotten a little further apart. So going in, it was struggle is the wrong word. It was a challenge to make certain that I always made Tim look, to not make him look bad, basically, to not let any bias I might have about any particular subject color that character's viewpoints.
Yeah.
And I like to think I did a good job on it. I would read further right-wing, websites, and I'd watch Fox News and whatnot just to kind of get a feel for what was being talked about and how certain people felt, And what I'd tell my writers all the time is, look, certain of the writers had a real problem with the character, and I'd say, you got to love the characters to write them. You got to love them. Find something you love in the character, and build around that. Right. Because if you don't like the character, that's going to come out. It's going to come out in your writing.
Right.
So you got to actually like the character. and hopefully you love them. And I loved that character, and that character was Tim and Tim. I love Tim too. They're good-hearted people. That character was always coming from a point of view of wanting what's best for his family and for the community. And I didn't find it difficult to write that character at all. A lot of it was just kind of, we viewed it as Tim was a traditionalist, is how we kind of called it, which is, he's not against change, he's not against doing things differently, but he just wants to pump the brakes a little bit because of the law of unintended consequences.
That's
you never
right.
know what's going to happen, right? And we'd get to do the law of unintended consequences of what happened with these things. So yeah, it was. I really enjoyed that time. I really enjoyed that time with Tim. He is one of those guys that has whatever that it thing is. I used to go in with Tim because, if he was just kind of flat or a little down in show night or trying to remember his lines, I'd tell him, well, say it however you'd want to say it, unless it was a word-specific joke, which I tried to keep away from Tim, because he didn't memorize his lines too well. But I'd say, say it how it's going to come out of your mouth, because I want it to feel natural. I don't want you remembering your lines, and I want you coming out because I said, I need the twinkle, Tim. I said, you're a really good actor, right? I said, but there's 10,000 really good actors in Hollywood. I need the star, because there's very few of those, and you're a star when you twinkle, when you turn it on, when you're in the moment, when you're feeling it and having fun with it. That's what I need. And he would bring it, man. And he did have the twinkle. He absolutely had the twinkle. Same with I was on Roseanne for a couple of years, and Roseanne, for as difficult as she could be, had the twinkle. She had that thing, whatever it is that just makes you look at these people. I had my showrunner on the show, Rob Eulum, who is great. He used to say that what stars have, the quality that they have, is they can make you. It's like a baby, a newborn. They can make you feel whatever emotion they're feeling. If they're overjoyed and happy, then you're happy. It just makes you feel happy. If they're crying, you are going to cry. If they're angry, it's going to make you angry. They have that ability to kind of make you feel that way, and I think that's true. Can I tell a quick Roseanne story?
Sure, absolutely.
So we were, it was the second season, and Roseanne had she'd come in at the beginning of the season and say, I want to do a show about racism, or, I want to do a show about whatever, we'd have to come up with something. And usually it was always about more challenging subjects. But this one, she comes in and she says, I want to do a show about abortion. And we're like, I want my character to have an abortion. And I'm like, And we'd spent the previous season trying to get that character pregnant. So we sit down and we try to break a story. How can we justify this character who's just spent a year trying to get pregnant having an abortion?
Right.
And we failed. We absolutely failed. So we had to go out to her house in Brentwood. We're supposed to pitch her the stories, Rob, me, and two of the other writers. And we get out there. We're basically all going, okay, just before we go in, said, look, we're probably going to get fired today because we have to tell her we can't do this. But we all agree we can't do this, right? We can't have this character have an abortion. We're like, yeah, we all agree. We all agree. So we go in the house. She lets us in. Just as she lets us in, come on in. We got some muffins and stuff in here. Just as she comes in, her daughter that she gave up for adoption, Brandy, and had just rediscovered that summer, and she's staying with him. She comes in the back door, and she's clearly been out all night. And she and Roseanne start screaming at each other. Well, you Ben, you bleep and bleep, and shut up, you, and just screaming. Brandy storms off, and they were like, oh man, we're gonna tell Roseanne we can't do this right now. And she said, all right, come on in. And we go sit down. Rob hems and haws for like 5 minutes and finally says, we just can't figure out how to do this. And she goes, didn't I tell you I don't want to do the abortion anymore? They shot that abortion doctor in Iowa. I don't want that to happen to me.
Oh my God.
We're like, really? She goes, yeah, have Darlene have an abortion. So,
Holy cow.
yeah. But you know what? She had that star thing. We walked out of there. The point of that was we walked out. And we were just swapping stories at that point with Roseanne, and we walked out so happy and so like, that was great. And we got outside and it was like, I feel dirty. We were so convinced she was going to be awful, and now she's got us. She got us back, and we're backing her. I love this woman. She just had that power, and Tim had the power too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He always says it's so funny because he was telling me. Two of his most iconic roles are Santa Claus and Buzz Lightyear. And he always gets requests. Can you send a message, voicemail as Buzz Lightyear or something like that, and he'll do it. I mean, again, really good guy. but he doesn't particularly like children. You know, he doesn't. You know, he doesn't. You know, he doesn't like the social interaction. He doesn't like other people's kids that much, and he, of course, he plays two characters that he is going to get approached by kids all the time,
absolutely.
all the time.
Yeah.
So, and you know, to his credit, he never takes it out on them. He goes, I hate that.
Yeah, I was just watching the Santa Claus because it's been on
Yeah.
every night for the last 5 weeks. Or
Exactly
whatever.
right.
And he kneels down to this little girl who thinks he's Santa Claus, but nobody else, because he doesn't look like Santa Claus.
Right.
And it's a very warm. It's one of the best moments in the movie.
Yeah.
And you go, oh wow, that's
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you say that in real life. He's not really.
Well, you know, again, with other people's kids, you know,
Yeah.
it's funny. He really, with the actresses on the show who played his daughters, he really took kind of like he felt very much the father figure to them.
Sure.
And when we'd do a scene where, you know, he'd have some emotional scene with, say, you know, Caitlin Deaver, phenomenal.
Great young actors.
Yeah, you know, they would move me to tears, man. They would really connect, you know, and because he felt that way about him, and he could convey that. You know, he really, you know, he was kind of devastated when the show ended. I mean, we were on for 10 seasons. That's forever. I don't know if shows are going to do that anymore in the streaming world, but you know, he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, I love coming in here and being here, and yeah, I mean, it's like, well, sorry, Tim. I'll work with you again if you got something going, but you know, he just forms those connections with people. There was a really good guy there. I mean, I got to tell you. I mean,
well, it definitely comes across, you know, on screen that he's one of the funniest men I've ever seen on TV and movies. And
there's a lot of people out there that come across as great people who really aren't.
Yeah, Paul and I were talking about that earlier, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I'd almost say more. I always tell people, don't meet the people you really love, that you admire, because they're gonna let you down most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. I think you're right. Well, you were talking about, you know, comedies and, you know, there's not that many 3-camera shows anymore, right?
No, there's not a lot of them. I mean, I actually did a show called Cool Kids with Charlie Day. That I went on and did it because basically I supervised it, and there are not only not that many shows out there, but there's not that many people that know how to do them anymore.
Okay.
Basically, the Fox executives were telling me, well, you know, you're teaching us how to do this because none of us have done a 4-camera show. And I'm like, really? You know, I mean, it just that the framework that used to be there, where, you know, when I started 34 years ago, you know, you worked your way up from staff writer. When I started, there were only 3 networks. Fox came along the next year, and you know, you learned your craft. You learned the ability to do this, and just also, you know, just the things of like when we were shooting the pilot to Cool Kids, I said, you know, we're not gonna shoot the whole show in front of the audience. So we've got sets that are out of the audience's view, and I'm gonna pre-shoot those and just run them back. And they're like, well, no, we want to see the whole thing. It's like, no, you don't understand. This is not good for the audience. It will kill the energy in the audience. There's a reason to have an audience, and that's to kind of bring that play-like energy, that feeling of you're with the crowd at the game. And you don't want to waste that. You know, you want to keep this entertaining for them. So we're gonna show it to them and move on. And I had to fight them on it, but they eventually agreed. And you know what? They're like, yeah, you were right. You're absolutely right. Make sure you're going to shoot those scenes in front of the audience that they can enjoy. Right. You know, with Tim, we'd always try to pre-shoot some scenes so that we could get through the night quicker, and then once again keep it entertaining for the audience. But I always had to make sure that, you know, I tried to get the scenes that Tim was in that are in front of the audience. So primarily the kitchen scene and the living room scene, right, and not so much the workplace, although I could use his office more, but tried to keep those in front of the audience because I know those are more. Look, they came to see Tim Allen, and those are going to be more interesting to them. They may love the whole show and the cast and everything, but you know, Tim's the reason that we were there, and Tim was the reason we were on the air. You know, so I wanted to give them, the audience, that reward. You know, that they came to see. Yeah, I want you to walk out of here going, "Oh my God, that was so great! We had to see Tim Allen, and he talked to us, and you know, because Tim would do a little bit of warm up. He always told his potato joke, you know, and would try to. He loved interacting with the audience too, you know. So it was a lot of fun. But will it come back? I think it might come back. Just to be honest. I mean, my career has seen kind of the pendulum swing on 4-camera. It was big when I started and dominant, and then single camera came in, and that pretty much dominated for 10 years or so. And then reality shows came in and kind of took up that space. Ultimately, I think there is something different and better that 4-camera does as opposed to single camera. It's more of a writer's medium, I think, because we are more like a play. We don't get to go everywhere. We don't get to show you every space. So we have to describe what is happening outside of what you see very often, and we get to be more, the actors, the characters have to speak more deeply in some ways, with the good ones, obviously, the good shows. And I think that makes it, I think it's more interesting for a writer, quite honestly. I did My Name Is Earl for a year, and great show and everything, but it really wasn't as rewarding. I never felt closer to factory work than when I was doing that show, because you didn't have show night, which I love. Show night is, I always say, it's the cookie, our reward at the end of the week for working hard is that you get to come in here, and this audience gets to give you, show you the love. Look, comedy writers, I say they're all messed up human beings. They're all in a lot of pain, and the only way they know how to deal with it is to spread it around. So they're all kind of damaged people, and this is the way they get love, is people laughing at what they've done and feeling the emotion that you wanted to feel when you're trying to hit it. I just love that. I mean, my wife said she's never seen me happier than when I'm standing at the monitor and the show's going well, and just, I apparently I mouth all the lines as the actors are doing them. But it's a rush that I just don't get anywhere else.
Yeah, well, you were nice enough to invite us to one of the tapings.
I remember.
It was the first episode of, I forget what, season 9 or...
It was season 9, I think, 9.
Yeah, but, and it was great. It was an awesome episode, and I told Julie, I sent Julie a text afterwards, and I said,
What? You're texting my wife?
Well... There you go.
Ah, man.
There you go. No, but maybe I messaged her. I just said, Kevin was fantastic. I mean, there was a certain, they were talking about like James Burroughs being a concerto, conductor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just noticed that with you in that episode, how you related to Tim Allen and Nancy Travis, and like in between takes, and just the camaraderie between, and then how you would get another take out of it. It was even better than the first, and there was just a certain joy in your face that I noticed, and I just thought you had a command. You weren't even the director of the episode.
Well, that's the other thing. Writers, especially in 4-camera, we're much more in control of the medium. My directors were all great and everything, but I felt, I had because we didn't have a house director. We had directors that came in, and they'd do like 5, or Victor Gonzalez did a bunch for us, and Victor was great.
He's done a lot of stuff.
But because Tim, as great a guy as I think he is also, he's got his idiosyncrasies, and he has a tendency to want to say no to whatever it is you're bringing in. The first year that I ran the show, I think I was batting 0% on the changes that I tried to give him, because he didn't trust me yet. By the end, he totally trusted me, but I knew how to relate to him. To how to say, because he believed that I told him once, I said, you know what, Tim, even if I didn't like you, and I do, I know you don't trust writers, but even if I didn't like you, it's in my best interest to make you look as good as possible. I need you to look as good as possible. Sure. So even if I didn't like you, I would be trying my best. When I'm coming in here, I'm trying to make you look as good as possible. And he finally understood that. But he also understood that when I'm coming in, I'm not saying you have to do this. I'm coming in and saying, hey, how about this line? What do you think about this? Can you have fun with that? And he'll respond, and he'll want to add, because he's a great, very creative, funny guy. And it was when we could build that trust between us that kind of took off. So I always felt like if he did great and I love the take, I'm going to walk in and say, that was a great take, man. That was fantastic. He needs to hear that. And if it didn't work, then it's up to me to walk in and go, hey, not your best, man. I need the twinkle. I need the star twinkle.
And you could tell it to somebody like that.
Absolutely.
Even at that level.
Not at first, but when we got to a level of trust that, yes, because he knows I'm telling him, that's not a take I can use. That's flat. I know you can do better than this. With Nancy's just a consummate pro. Nancy, I enjoyed so much. The problem was I have a very loud laugh, and I'm off, I'm off stage, right?
Right.
If you listen to any shows I've worked on, you can usually hear that. Ah,
Yeah.
but Nancy would hear me laughing at her stuff, which would make her laugh, so she would break. So it was always this thing of, she tried to hold on at a spot where I'm really enjoying it. But you could give them stuff as well as almost all of the kid actors. They were just great, but you had to kind of approach them each in their own way. I mean, show running is it. I always say I actually would prefer to be the number 2 on a show. That's actually my preferred job.
Really?
Yeah, because the pay is not that much better as a showrunner. I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong, but it's not that much better. And really, when you're the number 2 to a writer that you respect, who respects you, you get to do all that stuff that I got into the business to do anyway. To do the writing, to come up with the stories and
Sure.
and the jokes. When you become showrunner, you now have to do all this other stuff that has nothing to do with writing. That is so irritating and awful, and I hate it. Part of it's just the production side of things and dealing with all the budgets and the physical act of, here's a scene I wrote that takes place in a laundromat. How many washing machines do you want there? Do you want the washer dryers there?
Yeah.
What color scheme do you want on the actors on wardrobe? It's like, you can't really see me, but I don't know wardrobe. I'm not gonna,
Right.
So that stuff all just drives me nuts. And part of it that used to drive me nuts that I came to really enjoy was managing the cast, was figuring out, how to get each actor to feel safe. Because that's a lot of it, I think. A lot of it is just making them feel safe.
Trust you,
That I'm not going to send you out there with something that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And if in front of the audience for whatever reason it didn't work, I'm going to figure out why it didn't work, and we're gonna change it, and we're gonna make certain that you look good, So yeah, managing the cast is it's a big, it can. My wife would always show. She came to almost every show, and she'd say, "Is it a good show?" And I say, "Well, it is on paper." Now it's out of my. Now the actors have to do it. How it actually ends up, that'll be up to the actors.
Is there ever do you ever go into like a Monday when you do the table read or whenever the day is and just go, there is nothing on paper here that we could use?
Oh yeah.
I mean, just like zero almost. You have to start from.
We call it a page 1, and we've done that. We had one, very little on Last Man Standing. We had one on Reba that we did. That we had an episode where Reba, one of her old friends, had her old flames that Brock had stolen her from, had passed away, and we read it at table, and it was, no pun intended, but it was death. It was awful. It was just flat, and it's like, this does not work, and it's a story problem. It ain't just fixing some words.
Yeah.
So we went back. We said, okay, we have to do notes after we have the table reading, and then the network and studio will give us their notes and thoughts, and I'll tell them what I'm planning on doing. And then you go back and rewrite it. Well, this one I said, just don't worry about notes. This is all going to change. It's not going to be a word that's the same. And went back and had to re-break the story completely, which we did, and we wrote it. And next day it didn't really work either. But we had it changed enough that we knew where the roadmap was. We could see it, and it wound up being a really good show. We had one on Last Man with the morning of the table read. We'd read on Wednesday mornings, and then they'd rehearse Thursday, Friday, and they'd do run-throughs for me and the writers where they would perform it for us so that we could see if it worked or not. And then Monday was camera blocking and pre-shoot, and then Tuesday would be show night. Wednesday morning we go to table, and I get a call as I'm walking in the door that Tim's in the hospital.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and they don't know what's wrong with him, so they don't know what's going to happen. Now, on a show called Last Man Standing, when the last man ain't standing, it becomes a little difficult, right? And we did the table reading, and I said, well, let's hear what we can hear. And we got done with it, and I talked to. We were on Fox at the time, and I said, insurance would cover if we had to shut down for a week. But it's expensive. They prefer not to do that.
Right.
So I said, let me give me an hour. Let me see if I can just rework this. Let's figure if we can figure out a path forward on it. Which we did. We wound up finding out a path forward, and we just rewrote it all that night, and it takes obviously a bit longer. But we just switched roles, and we had Tim do something that we'd done on Roseanne, which was we had Tim drop in. He'd be at the beginning of a scene. He was trying to get there. And we said, we'll shoot these parts when he gets back. And it wound up being, the network loved it. They thought it was really good.
What was the episode?
The episode was Ed is getting married to Nancy's mom, to Vanessa's mom.
Yeah, okay.
And Tim is stuck up in, he gets snowed in, and he has to try to get back Ed winds up in the hospital.
Yeah, so Ed's in the hospital.
Ed's in the hospital, right? And they have the wedding ceremony in the hospital. But Tim, we had to take Tim completely out of that.
Wow.
And we had one on Roseanne. My first year there, we were there, and it was a sixth or seventh episode, and the Emmys were on the night before, and she won that year for Best Actress in a Comedy.
Okay.
First time she'd ever won. And I remember looking at my wife and saying, "Oh, okay, it's going to be a good week." Because you may not know this, but Roseanne could be tough on writers. So I'm saying, oh, it's going to be a good week. She's going to be in a good mood. And we go in, and we're sitting at a table. We used to do table reads on the set there. And Roseanne's not there, and she's not there. And finally, Tom Arnold comes in. This is when they were married. And Tom goes, "Oh, let's just go ahead. We'll do it without Rosie. She's not here right now." And we're like, okay, kind of pointless because to not hear what she's going to do, right? Midway through the table read, we see Roseanne poke her head out from behind the set. And go, Tom. Tom gets up and goes, "Oh, just keep going. Just keep going." I'm like, all right, and the cast is reading, and her stand-in's reading her part, and they're screaming at each other back there. Some huge fight, and we hear her, storm off, and he comes back and goes, "Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." So we go back to the writer's room. We're like, okay, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to rewrite this? And Rob gets a call, and he comes back in, and he says, "Everybody but Kevin and Miriam and Eric, go home, and I'll call you and let you know what's going on for the week." And we're like, what's going on? He's like, well, this can't get out because Carsey Werner's in negotiations with ABC for a 3-year pickup. So they don't want people to know that, Roseanne's had a breakdown, and she's going to be hospitalized for a little while.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah. And we're like, what? Yeah, they don't know how long this is going to be. But nobody can know, so you need to write a new episode without her.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
We didn't have any in the bank that didn't have Roseanne in them, So, we had to scramble. It wound up being a very good episode. It's Vicki Lawrence was in it, and it was Dan. Vicki Lawrence was one of Dan's old flames, and she shows up, and then Roseanne comes back. He doesn't cheat or anything like that because Dan loved Roseanne, but he winds up having very creative sex with Roseanne when she comes home that evening, and she's all thrilled about it. And then Jackie reveals that no, it was he was thinking about her. You cheated in your mind, yeah. And what we did is we did the same thing. We shot scenes with her to, she'd walk out of a scene or something like that.
Right.
But, those days, you hate to see them, but you never know when they're coming. You never really know.
Yeah.
It's amazing how often you can get a scripted table that everybody's read and gone, oh, yeah, this is really good. It's really tight. And then it reads and you go, that didn't work. And you go, yeah, there's a huge fundamental flaw here that it's going to take a lot of writing to fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's you and I were growing up. You said there were 3 stations, and then became Fox as well, and then now there's I forget how many scripted shows there were back then. There's like over 500 scripted shows.
Yeah.
Most of them, the kind of limited series and streaming, and it's changed quite a bit since you've been in it.
Business is entirely different. Yeah.
What are you? I know you did Last Man Standing. What are you working on now? Or what are you thinking about doing now? Or I don't even know. I didn't ask you on purpose ahead of this podcast, just so we could get it live. But
well, I'm actually working right now. I did the final season of Last Man was during COVID, and that was just a really tough year. In the sense that we didn't have show nights because we couldn't have audiences,
right.
So it really was just a drudge, and it was just me and my number 2, Matt Berry. We're the only ones in the offices doing the writing, and all of the protocols and the testing and whatnot. It kind of burned me out that year.
Yeah.
So I took a year off just to recharge, and right now I'm working on a project that I'm probably going to take out beginning of next year with Reba again. Reba wants to do another show.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so we've been working on a show together, and but I like it a lot, And if that doesn't go, then probably beginning of next season, although there really aren't seasons anymore.
No, there's not.
You know, I might go try to run. I mean, like I said, I'm kind of getting at the stage of my career where show running takes your entire focus. You know, I mean, it really does command your life in so many ways. And as a writer, when I'm writing, you know, as the showrunner, you basically write every episode in a sense, and that it all has to work for you. You rewrite them all. I don't stop thinking about them. You know, my wife will complain, and she would go like, she'll be telling me something, and then you know, finish, and I'm like, okay, is this funny? She's like, were you listening? Yeah, I heard it all. This is in my head, and I need to get it out. It just takes over everything, and I'm less willing to do that than I used to be. I mean, if I could find consulting gigs on it and just help people out, because you know there aren't that many people who know how to do 4K anymore, that would be preferable to me. But I always wind up helping out, and then I wind up running the show at some point, you know, and it just becomes. So anyway, I mean, if I can get the Reba show going, that's when I would be willing to go ahead and run
And do the show.
and do the energy of it. Yeah,
Got it.
but I'm constantly. I mean, I like the streaming idea because the idea of doing 8 or 10 episodes as opposed to 22 is great. I mean, we usually have pre-production is about 6 weeks before production starts. And I like to have 8 stories broken in some form. So that'll mean like, you know, I'll have 3 scripts, a couple of outlines, and then the notion of the 8th one. So, it would be no problem doing that. It'd be done practically in preseason, you know. But 22, usually, you know, if you ever watch seasons of shows that were 22, usually the ones in the middle are a little weaker, and the reason that is because the writer's getting tired. What happens is they have all this great stuff from pre-production when they had plenty of time and they were well rested and coming off hiatus, and that all goes in like the first 5-6 shows, right?
Yeah.
And then they're kind of going, now these are the ideas that weren't good enough to be the first ones, right? The next batch is those ones, and they're going through those. And then by the time you get to 13, you're exhausted. It's, you know, you still can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you just want to, you know, that's why those shows kind of suck. Once you get to the back 9, once you get to like 15 or 16, it's like, oh, I can see the end again.
Yeah.
You kind of get some more energy. But that's why I'd prefer to do 8 or 10.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice we have a lot of, you know, students here in Orange County, not all over Southern California, obviously, but we're here on the campus of UCI, but there's also Chapman here who has a great film school, and Fullerton, and
Right.
any advice you have to young people breaking in, like the way, I mean, I don't know if you consider it's changed a bit since you broke in 3 decades ago, and anything that they should be focused on. And
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, it somewhat depends on what you want to do or be, you know. I mean, I'll give you from the writer's perspective. If you want to be a writer, the first thing you should do before doing anything else is write.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I mean, you need to get that skill going and get that muscle working, you know. And I think it is a muscle, you know, it is something you got to constantly do to keep sharp. So right. And then you're going to have a spec script. You're going to have something to show people. And it shouldn't be an original. It shouldn't be an original just because if you're trying to get on a series, if you want employment, you know, if you want to be a movie writer, it can be an original. If you want to be a TV writer, you need to demonstrate that you can write in other people's voices. You know, if you ever hear a Woody Allen film or you know, an Aaron Sorkin, that's just, all those characters are them. You know, there's just them speaking. You know, it's their rhythms and whatnot. Well, that's not going to work. You can't be your voice because it's not going to be your show that you're going on to work on originally. So you have to demonstrate that you can take other characters and write them faithfully and believably. And then once you get that, and make sure that thing's as good as it can possibly get before you. The big hurdle is going to be, how can I get somebody to read this that knows what's going on?
Yeah.
Traditionally, I think that the path that's been taken by most of the people that I know that have gotten into the business in the last 10 years or so is going to work on a production, trying to get a PA job, trying to get an assistant job, trying to do anything that can put you in contact with people that you can ask as a favor, can you give this a read? Because I can tell you, you know, when staffing season would come around, you know, my office would be lined with scripts, you know, 3 feet high to read. I used to tell agents, all the agents in town, call you and say, what do you need? And I'd say, I need this. I only need this and this. You know, send me the one you think is best. The one client, I'm not going to tell anybody who you did, you know.
Right.
But if you send me eight scripts saying, oh, well, can you just read all these? I'm not going to read it. Yours goes to the bottom of the pile.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the time. I literally can't get through all of these things. I'd have assistants helping me out reading it and saying if it, the ones that clearly aren't going to work.
Right.
But you kind of need to have somebody you trust that has an ability to differentiate good and bad that can read it for you. And the only way to do that is to try to find a job that's probably non-writing that puts you in contact with them.
Yeah. That's great advice.
Yeah. The other thing you can do is there's a lot of writers programs out there. Disney has them, Warner Brothers, Writers Guild has them. Those also, I think, can be doors that can be opened. I mean, I've hired people out of those programs because they're also subsidized, so the studio is more willing to hire them. You can go, well, they're not going to cost the studio. Disney program's going to pay for the first year. You can get shots out of that too. You'd have to submit something to them. I don't know how the process works, how they do the choosing, but those are the two ways I know that the most people that have had success getting into the business doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's great advice.
Yeah. Don't just walk up to anybody or just send somebody your thing. It's not going to work. They're just going to toss it out. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. I've had people put scripts in my mailbox and I can't read them. Legally, I can't. I put myself at risk, and the upside of the chances of that script being so brilliant that I have to have this person. It just I'm not going to take that chance. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Kevin, we appreciate you being here. I mean, this went by really fast. Unfortunately,
Man, I can talk a lot, can't I?
Yeah.
For a writer, I can talk a lot.
You can talk a lot. That's right. Writers are usually.
Yeah, we could go sit me in my office alone and let me brood for a while.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was great catching up with you two personally, since you and I have known each other for a long time.
Long time.
Appreciate you being on and admired the success you've had. I mean, because I remember you when you were in school. So.
Yeah. Nobody saw it coming. Nobody saw it coming.
We didn't see that. Wow. What the hell? But it means anybody can make it.
That's true. That is true. But I'm inspiration for millions.
You are inspiration for millions. No, but you've done a great job, and I have seen your work, and you definitely are. From what I've seen, my limited knowledge, you're one of the top showrunners I've seen out there. So
thank you, Ruben. I appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you doing that, and look forward to your next adventure here.
Thank you much, buddy.
Because you make me laugh.
Thanks, bud.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for being on.
My pleasure.
Thank you, everybody, for being on our community show. We appreciate it.
Well, there you have it. That doesn't give you pause to come back and hear more. I don't know what will, as we meet our community each and every week here in Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio, streaming live from our studios here at the University of California Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center, powered by the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.